So, let me just get this out of the way. In my opinion, the most underrated arc in all of anime is the Fullbringer arc from Bleach. It's been a while since I watched it, but I feel like of the big three in anime, One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach, Bleach is the least popular. It always sort of felt like the odd one in the bunch, and I feel like a lot of that is from people not understanding the main character or what the story is really about. The main characters in all of these shows are a huge reason why people even watch them in the first place. In both One Piece and Naruto, their goals are easily understood from the very beginning. Luffy wants to get the One Piece and become the king of the pirates, and Naruto wants to become Hokage. Both of these goals are concrete goals that are told to us time and time again throughout the story, but what is it that Ichigo really wants? Well, the answer to that is very simple. He just wants to protect his friends and family. And that this goal admittedly seems very simplistic compared to the other two protagonists I talked about. Protecting your friends is not something that has an achievable goal or something to look forward to in the end. Instead, it's a goal that is constantly at work. In addition to this, the other two protagonists, Luffy and Naruto, basically have these goals already. Protecting your friends is something that is expected of them that they do in addition to their main goals. But in Bleach, that's all Ichigo is, and that's what the story is about. That is the one thing that drives the story, and that is because in One Piece and Naruto, the stories are about how the character changes the world, but in Bleach, it's how the world changes the character. Well, for the most part, the entire story is not about how the world changes the character in Bleach, and the same but opposite can be said about One Piece and Naruto. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that the focus of the story is much more on the development of Ichigo's mindset than it is his effect on the world, and that's exactly why I like Bleach so much. My favorite parts of One Piece and Naruto are the sections where the protagonists are actually losing and learning from past mistakes, and the world is affecting the character. This is why, in my opinion, the Fullbringer arc in Bleach is my favorite arc of Bleach. During this arc, Ichigo is really put through the ringer and tested on who he is as a person. For context, Ichigo at this point in the story has sacrificed all of his potential and power that he had previously gained. All the strength that he had accumulated to protect his friends in the first place, he had used to take out Aizen, who at the time was the biggest threat that needed to be taken out immediately. However, once Ichigo lost his powers, the world didn't magically become a better place, but instead is just as brutal as it was before. But now, Ichigo can't do a single thing about it. He can't even see the enemies he's fighting anymore, but he's still kept his knowledge of them. He knows how dangerous they can really be, but he can only watch as he watches these monsters attack the people he cares about. Eventually, Ichigo is approached by people who say that he can give him powers again. Now this seems great for that purpose alone, but there are a few problems with that. One is that the guy approaching Ichigo is kind of sketchy and weird. I mean, keep in mind, Ichigo is a teenager in high school, and these weird dudes are approaching him at night promising power. If I was in his situation, I would probably be running for my life. But in addition to that, there's the fact that Ichigo doesn't really like fighting or killing anybody. This was always his inner conflict he had with himself from the very beginning. Before we see these monsters and murderers appearing, Ichigo was actually really enjoying his new life, or rather his new chance at life. However, after more of his friends are hurt and being attacked, he decides to pick the lesser of the two evils and accepts those weird people's request. Now once Ichigo accepts this request, it isn't a done deal and he gets his powers back right away. No. Instead, it's Ichigo starting back from square one in order to get his powers back. It's a real struggle this time since he's not just given his powers and strengthens them as the story goes along. Instead, he has to first awaken them and then build his strength back. Luckily, like what I said before, his strength was gone, but he still kept the knowledge from his past life as a Shinigami, meaning he was able to quickly overcome a lot of hurdles and already had a good head on his shoulders when it came to fighting. However, as he spends more time away training, once again the world is still just as evil. Time hasn't stopped while Ichigo is off training, so his loved ones continue to get attacked. Not only that, but mentally manipulated. Long story short, the villain of this arc forced himself into Ichigo's friends' memories, so that way Ichigo can't attack him because to Ichigo's friends, he's been in their lives their whole lives. This is honestly insanely messed up. Imagining a person sneaking into your life with your friends and family caring for them like they do to their loved ones is very disturbing to think about. Anyways, what this means for Ichigo is that he can't really defeat his enemy like he has in the past. It's not just a contest of strength. So he just runs away. He finds more people that are important to him, finds out they're brainwashed as well, and runs away. He keeps doing this until he is finally cornered, with the last person he thought he could trust ended up betraying him as well, and stealing the power that Ichigo had just discovered and worked for. At this point, this is where Ichigo is at his lowest point. Not only has he lost his powers again, but now he doesn't even have the trust of his friends or family, since to them, he just started randomly attacking a loved one and spouting nonsense. And as the reality of the situation starts to kick in, he gets stabbed in the back. When he looks back, he sees Kisuke standing there, and Ichigo naturally assumes that he betrayed him too. I mean, Ichigo had already been figuratively stabbed in the back, might as well do it literally too. But when he looks at who is actually holding the sword, it's floating. And when he finally sees that Rukia was holding the sword, and the other members from Soul Society are also there to back him up, he finally gains the power that he threw away in the first place. The reason they are even there is to pay him back for helping them deal with Aizen from the last arc, finally rewarding Ichigo for all the hard work he's been giving. After this, they all quickly defeat the enemy Fullbringers. Everyone returns to Soul Society, and Ichigo says goodbye to Rukia. Now, I might have missed something or got something wrong. Like I said, it's been a while since I saw this arc, but I feel that I covered everything that I wanted to talk about. I purposely didn't talk about everything that happened in the arc for the purpose of time, but I think with this information, it's enough to explain why I like this arc so much. The hero of a story making a sacrifice at the end for the greater good is something that a lot of shows do. However, it always left a question in my mind about what happened next. Usually the protagonists eliminate the root of all evil, and the world is a much better place afterwards, and the story ends. But this arc explores the possibility that that might not be the case. The only other show that I feel like has a similar plotline to this is the 13th Hunter Chairman Election arc from Hunter x Hunter. Funny enough, this is also the last arc of the Hunter x Hunter anime, and is also very short like the Fullbringer arc. But anyways, quick spoiler warning, so skip forward a bit if you aren't caught up in Hunter x Hunter. The main character Gon also sacrifices his future for temporary power. However, in Hunter x Hunter, this is used as a chance to flesh out Gon's friend Killua, whereas in Bleach, it's to flesh out the main character. I like these plot lines in both shows, and it goes to show just how unique this sort of predicament really is, and I really enjoyed it. Now I feel like I'm done explaining the main reason why I like this arc so much, so I'll spend the rest of the video talking about how there's sort of an unfair hate for this arc, hence why I think it is underrated. And underrated just simply means that something is not given the credit that it deserves. Part of the reason I feel that this is the case is since people go into this arc expecting something completely different than it actually is. One of the reasons is that this arc doesn't have the same stakes that the arcs prior have, and I believe for good reason. It's kind of impossible to have constantly rising stakes and tension for as long as a show that Bleach is. The villains of past arcs were very imposing and threatening, while the antagonists in this arc are very weak in comparison. However, they aren't supposed to be life-threatening at all, because this arc is just a setup for the future as well. It's not supposed to have a huge climax after a long build-up. This leads into the other reason why I feel this arc is also disliked. Like I said before, this is the last arc of the anime before it ended. This is, and I'll admit it, a very disappointing conclusion to the Bleach anime, but that wasn't the intention at all. It was to build up the future of Bleach instead of ending it. I feel that a lot of the anger fans had were sort of blamed on this arc when it wasn't to blame at all. Another reason why people didn't like this arc too much is because it seemed like it was going to give the focus to the side characters more. It sort of seemed that while Ichigo was off training, his friends would actually handle the villains of the arc themselves, giving them some much needed character growth, but instead the arc focuses on Ichigo even harder than it did in the past. Honestly, this is something that I can agree with, to see them have their own win and personal growth, but unfortunately that is one problem with Bleach in general that I can't really dispute. They've always been pushed to the sidelines and gotten weaker, unfortunately. The final main reason I see that people don't like the Fullbringer arc is the rushed ending. However, this is another thing that isn't really the arc's fault. This was something that the anime did to kind of give the viewers some closure since the anime was ending. This arc wasn't supposed to be the end of Bleach, but it was to further hype up the future. Yeah, they could have done a better job, but I didn't really mind since I knew ahead of time that the ending was a little rushed. However, despite those major complaints to me, the positives about this arc still outweigh the negatives. I like that the story sort of took a step back with the abilities of both Ichigo and the antagonist going down to a believable level. I also didn't mind that the side characters didn't get too much time to shine. This is more personal to me since I didn't really fall in love with the show because of the side characters. I liked it because of the atmosphere and the development of Ichigo. Don't get me wrong, it would have been great if Ichigo's friends did have more time to shine, but when I was watching, I wasn't really betting on it, so I wasn't too disappointed. Same with the ending, I knew it had a rushed ending, so I didn't feel that heartbroken seeing it end so abruptly. Well, in conclusion, that's why I think that this is the most underrated arc in Bleach, and in anime for that matter. I explained already that Bleach is very overlooked when compared to the other two shows in the big three, and then in addition to that, this arc in particular is also overlooked and overhated. So that is why for me, this is the most underrated arc in anime.